Hello ladies and gentlemen, Richard here, the creator of the Top Hat Gaming Man. And this evening I thought it was probably about time that I discuss the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, because it seems that everyone on the internet has given their opinions on these bloody things, and I am yet to give mine. And in regards to the title of this video, it says Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, why I hate you all. Let's talk about that quickly. When I say I hate you all, what I really mean is mankind in general, and how the people respond to these ridiculous trends that end up in ridiculous echo chambers, which result in everybody talking about the same things at the same bloody time. This is bloody boring, isn't it? How many times do you want to hear on the news about bloody COVID-19? How many times do you want to hear about Trump and bloody Biden, even though it's all happening over on a different damn continent? And on top of that, I am sick of YouTube videos about the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X clogging up my recommendations, even though I generally don't even search for the bloody things. I look on YouTube and they want to just force the videos down my neck, like this is basically a PlayStation 5 video and this is me. And that's it, basically. That's the problem at the moment, shoving things literally down my throat. Right, because I study my analytics, I generally know how old many of my viewers are at home. The biggest and largest demographic falls between people of the age of around 35 to 45. I believe. So all those people would have been around for many console generations like myself. And you're probably used to these ridiculous media circuses by now, where consoles just get hyped up and hyped up and hyped up, with not very much going for them at launch. But despite going through the same cycle over and over and over again, they usually sell out, and people are clamouring for them every single time without fail, with very few reasons to do so. And it seems like the further we go through history and we get each new generation, it feels like the less these new generations offer than what came previously. Let's talk about this PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X at present. From what I've seen across various social media platforms, there's a few features which people are using as their justifiable reasons for purchasing these devices. First of all, they offer better frame rates than what came before them. They offer faster load times. And thirdly, they are backwards compatible with older hardware such as the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Keeping these reasons in mind, it still seems rather absurd to me that people are clamouring so hard to get these bloody things. For example, why is backwards compatibility such a big thing all of a sudden? If you already own a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you've already got access to be able to play those games. So what's the demand for a backwards compatible console when you can play those games already? Even the generations before, when consoles weren't backwards compatible, nothing was stopping you from keeping your old one to play the old games on. Now, we've obviously got the quicker load times than what we used to have previously with these new devices, so I can see a use there, but I do not see that being an important enough feature to rush out and buy one of these consoles for £400 just to reduce load time slightly. And frame rate, really? Why does that make so much difference with regards to your games? Why does it make such a dramatic difference to you watching at home, the frame rate in which you play your games at? Because to me personally, games have always been about the experience they deliver, and they have many more layers than simple graphics and frame rates. So I apologise to people watching at home if I'm coming across as somewhat of an old man who shouts at clouds, but it'd be great if some of you at home watching today can justify to me the reasons why you're so keen to get one of these PlayStation 5s or Xbox Series X's right now, when you know for a fact there's not many around to begin with, and even if you do manage to get your grubby little hands on them, you know full well that there's hardly any exclusives out there for you to purchase in the first place. So what's the demand to spend all of that money on a system that's hard to get, to then have something which you're only getting a few additional features for and no killer app exclusives. Like, I understand back in the day why people would have rushed out desperately to get a Nintendo 64, for example, because Mario 64 was revolutionary. There was no game like it before it, and people had the opportunity to play something brand new, unlike anything they could have experienced on the Super Nintendo before it. I can't see one game on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X which is going to have that sort of impact. Maybe we'll see something released down the line, but there's certainly nothing available at launch or announced to be released anytime soon that will have any sort of significance on the gaming industry, quite like the likes of Mario 64. So I can fully understand back in the day why people wanted certain consoles, because they really did do revolutionary things. And whilst I can see some of the benefits for these modern consoles panning out in the future to deliver great experiences, those great experiences aren't available quite yet. So I see no need to rush out and purchase one of these devices now. Especially when you consider that history has already showed us that the longer we wait for these consoles, the cheaper price point we can get them at, and more importantly, the longer we wait, the richer those system libraries will become. So essentially, the longer we wait, the better experience we will get when we eventually get these new systems. Looking across at various social media platforms, it almost looks as if people are going mad to purchase these systems just so that they can flaunt their purchases over on social media. It's as if people want to own these consoles for the sake of owning them, to go, wow, I've got a PlayStation 5, or wow, I've got an Xbox Series X, just so they don't have to worry about looking for one in the future, even though deep down they know there's going to be no problem whatsoever being able to buy these. They're going to be mass manufactured, so it doesn't make any sense. From what I can see looking in, it's almost as if people treat these consoles these days no different to a pair of Nike trainers or an expensive baseball cap. People are literally buying them to show off. Personally, as you can probably see, I'm not really one for designer clothes, so I'm not the sort of person who would really want to rush out there and buy a console just so I can brag about it. Generally, I buy games to play. Even though there's a large collection behind you, nearly all of those games I've bought in the past specifically to play. Sure, you've got the odd one here or there that I'm not going to play, but generally that's because I've bought them in a big bundle, so they're kind of cheap excess. So bearing in mind, we know how it normally pans out with these consoles on release. I would like to know from my viewers at home, if you pre-ordered one of these devices, what was your thought process behind making sure you got one of these things day one, when you know that these systems are never quite as useful at launch as they are a couple of years down the line. So what is the demand to have one right now? Like I said, I'm fairly seasoned and used to this, so I've seen this same process happen time and time again, as most of you probably have who are watching at home. Thinking about it, this strange consumer behaviours probably go back to the launch of the PlayStation 2, because that was the greatest selling console of all time. But at launch, it didn't offer many particularly impressive or groundbreaking games. However, prior to its release, the Sony PlayStation was the best-selling console of all time, and due to the Sony PlayStation's success, it just drove up consumer demand to want to own the sequel to the greatest system of all time. So the PlayStation 2 had a load of hype around it simply for the fact that it was called the PlayStation 2. Basically the sequel to what was at the time the greatest system that had ever been released. And due to that, there was plenty of bloody shortages at the time, and many people had to wait quite a while before they could get their hands on them. Personally, when the PlayStation 2 did launch, I don't recall being that interested in it myself. I already had a Sega Dreamcast, a Nintendo 64, and original Sony PlayStation all in my collection, and all three of those devices were delivering me new games and regular entertainment. So I didn't see much demand to want to add the PlayStation 2 that quickly. Once again, I knew I would want to add it in the future because I knew the potential great games that would come out on it. But I think I waited a good 18 months before I dove in and actually purchased one of those things. But the PlayStation 2 blueprint seems to have been used time and time again ever since, particularly by Sony. It seems like the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, none of those have offered particularly good launch lineups, and all of them seem to have relied purely on the Sony hype train. Basically, across these new systems, there's no particular launch titles that are jumping out at me and going, you must play these. There's nothing in particular that really excites me. But like I said, if you go back and look at a lot of these older consoles, it was much the same process for me too. But I never grabbed any of those systems at launch. It's got to be really specific for me to want to purchase a console day one. The only one I can recall getting in recent memory in the first week was the Nintendo Switch. And the only reason I made sure I grabbed that pretty quickly was to play Breath of the Wild on the go. Because I was actually travelling Thailand at the time, and it gave me the opportunity to play this brand spanking new Zelda game anywhere I wanted. So I had a legit reason why I wanted to be an early adopter of a system where I can't find one for the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. So if you can at home think of any reasons why I should in fact become an early adopter of either of these devices, then do kindly let me know. That sounded a bit funny. Do kindly let me know. If you are one of the people who've rushed out to buy these devices, then I'm really not trying to take anything away from you, nor do I have any problem with your decision. I'm just struggling myself to process the need for these devices other than pure marketing hype. Now, I know there's probably going to be people in the comment section who's going to post things such as just let people have fun. However, my thinking's obviously not going to be the same as everybody else. And I've got no problem if you're having fun with these devices at home. I just like to try and analyse the reasons why people behave in certain ways. Now, I know I'm probably asking a lot of questions in this video, but I really am trying to get to the bottom of why people are so hyped up about these systems. Because, as a very passionate gamer myself, I feel no need to rush out and grab one of these things. But you're my audience, so I'm very, very, very interested to know what you think and what exactly motivates your purchases. So now I think what would be fun is if some of you in the comment section down below can convince me that I'm completely wrong and I should go out there and buy one of these bloody things. However, if you completely agree with everything I am saying, I'm completely happy with that too. Yeah. Cheerio, give me your thoughts.